In a bakery in Pompeii, a baker placed fresh bread into a hot oven. It was an ordinary morning. The bread should have been sold that day. It never was. Nearly 17 centuries later, archaeologists found those loaves still inside the oven, untouched, waiting. Not because time had stopped, but because an entire city had. What happened during Pompeii's final day? This is that story.
History remembers Pompeii as the city destroyed by Mount Vesuvius. But that isn't the mystery. The people of Pompeii didn't die the moment the volcano erupted. They had warnings. They felt earthquakes. They saw ash rising into the sky. Some escaped. Many stayed. Not because they ignored the danger, but because they believed they still had time. The real question is, when did escape become impossible?
24 hours earlier, Pompeii woke beneath the warm summer sun. The first light spilled across tiled rooftops, marble temples, and quiet courtyards as the city slowly came to life. Bakers lit their ovens before sunrise, filling the streets with the smell of fresh bread. Merchants arranged fruit, olives, wine, and spices outside their shops, greeting familiar faces as the marketplace grew busier with each passing hour. Children hurried through the forum, laughing as they chased one another between towering columns. Nearby, blacksmiths hammered glowing iron, while stonemasons continued repairing buildings damaged by an earthquake years before. Life felt predictable, comfortable, ordinary. Pompeii was one of the Roman world's most prosperous cities, where trade flourished and daily routines rarely changed. Watching over it all stood Mount Vesuvius. Its green slopes were covered with vineyards and scattered farms. From below, the mountain looked peaceful, almost protective. No smoke drifted from its summit, no flames lit the sky. Nothing suggested that deep beneath the earth, the mountain was already changing.
As the morning wore on, a faint tremor passed beneath the city. Clay cups rattled on wooden tables. Hanging lamps swayed gently from the ceiling. For a brief moment, conversations stopped. People looked around. Then, just as quickly, life returned to normal. For the people of Pompeii, earthquakes were nothing new. 17 years earlier, a powerful quake had damaged much of the city. Since then, smaller tremors had become part of everyday life. Walls had been repaired, temples rebuilt, businesses reopened. Life had moved on. Another tremor wasn't a reason to panic. It was simply another reminder that they lived beside a restless mountain. What no one could see was that deep beneath Mount Vesuvius, molten rock was slowly forcing its way upward. Each tremor relieved a little pressure, but it also meant the mountain was changing. The warning had arrived. No one recognized it.
By early afternoon, people began looking toward Mount Vesuvius. A dark column was rising into the sky. It climbed higher and higher until it towered above the Bay of Naples. To those watching below, it resembled the shape of a giant pine tree. Its narrow column rose upward before spreading into a vast canopy of ash. It was unlike anything the people of Pompeii had ever seen. Then, the first flakes began to fall. Soft, gray ash drifted through the air. It settled on rooftops, market stalls, gardens.
freshly baked bread. Some people stopped to watch. Others brushed the ash from their shoulders and continued with their day. No one knew whether this was the beginning or the end. But with every passing minute, the mountain was becoming harder to ignore.
By late afternoon, the eruption was no longer a distant spectacle. The ash continued to fall. Then the mountain began throwing something far more dangerous: white volcanic stones. At first, they were small enough to fit in the palm of a hand. Soon, they grew larger. They crashed onto rooftops with sharp cracks that echoed through the city. Every hour, the streets disappeared beneath a thicker layer of pumice. Walking became slower. Breathing became harder. Some families decided they had seen enough. They gathered their children, packed only what they could carry, and joined the growing line of people leaving the city. Others chose to stay. Some refused to abandon their homes. Some waited for loved ones who had not yet returned. Others believed the eruption would soon end, just as suddenly as it had begun. None of them knew which decision was right. Because no one in Pompeii had ever faced anything like this before. The mountain was forcing every family to make a choice, without telling them how much time they had left.
As evening turned to night, darkness swallowed Pompeii, not because the sun had disappeared, but because the ash had hidden the sky itself. Oil lamps flickered inside homes. Torches struggled to cut through the thick air. Every breath carried fine volcanic dust. Every rooftop carried more weight than the hour before. Then came the sound people feared most. Another roof collapsed. Then another. Across the city, the eruption was no longer something to watch. It had become something to survive. Families gathered together inside their homes, hoping stone walls would protect them. Others continued searching for a way out, feeling their way through streets they could barely recognize. The deeper the ash became, the harder it was to move. The harder it became to leave. By now, escape was no longer simply a decision. It was becoming a race against the mountain itself. And the mountain was winning. Just before dawn, the eruption changed. For hours, Mount Vesuvius had blasted ash and rock high into the atmosphere. Then, the towering column could no longer support its own weight. It collapsed. What followed was the deadliest stage of the eruption. A pyroclastic surge. A fast-moving wave of superheated gas, volcanic ash, and shattered rock racing down the mountain. It moved too quickly to outrun, too hot to survive, and too suddenly for most people to understand what was happening. For those still inside Pompeii, the search for safety was over. There were no clear roads left, no strong walls left, no second chances left. This was the moment the city crossed a line from which it could never return. The question that had followed Pompeii for nearly 2,000 years finally had its answer. Escape had become impossible.
Within minutes, the city fell silent. The streets that had been filled with voices only hours before were gone. Markets, homes, temples, workshops. Everything disappeared beneath a storm of burning ash. Archaeologists have uncovered heartbreaking evidence of those final moments. Families were found together. Parents were discovered shielding their children. Some victims lay only a short distance from the city gates, suggesting they escaped their homes, but never escaped the city. Others remained where they believed they would be safest, inside bedrooms, courtyards, workshops. Their final decisions were preserved beneath the ash. By sunrise, Pompeii no longer looked like a city. It looked like a landscape the world had forgotten. But beneath that silent blanket of ash, the final moments of thousands of lives remained untouched, waiting to be discovered centuries later. Pompeii remained hidden beneath volcanic ash. When archaeologists uncovered the city, they found more than ruins. They found a single day, frozen in time. Homes, shops, tools, and inside a quiet bakery, the bread, still resting in the oven, still waiting for customers who would never return. That simple loaf reminds us that history isn't only shaped by kings or empires. Sometimes it's preserved in the ordinary moments people never expected to be their last. The people of Pompeii didn't know they were living through history. To them, it was simply another day. Until it wasn't.